You have entered the realm of dead air. For the next 2 hours, you will be transported into the world of the strange and the supernatural. You might not feel the need to cleanse your laptops or mobile devices afterwards. But it might not be a bad idea.
You know, we should have done a disclaimer for tonight's show entitled "The Opinions of the Hosts of Dead Air do not reflect that of KGRA or StreamYard," because we're probably going to get in trouble tonight. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It is our Sunday night 2-hour live show with myself, George Lopez, and Ken DaCosta. Our very special guest, Aaron Bush, going to be joining us here in a few minutes. But thank you guys for joining us here in chat. Uh, certainly strap in. Certainly strap in, because I can tell you this. I have no idea where this is going to go tonight. So you guys, welcome to comment in the chat. Certainly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, hit the thumbs up for the reminder bell. Click that. That you guys know the routine. But mostly, I want to see those thumbs up. Those click on that like. Everybody that's joining us, because I see it up in the corner of the screen, and again, it helps the algorithm recognize the thumbs up and say, we want more people out there looking at this. So please feel free to do so. Again, we're simulcast on KGRADB.com, KGRA on Facebook. And we thank you guys for joining tonight. Hope everybody's doing well in whatever part of the country or the world you are watching us from. I know that I'm here in Florida and Ken's up in Rhode Island, and it's cold everywhere.
I woke up to a balmy 16 degrees this morning.
Hang in there, Ken. Hang in there.
Okay. It got better from there. We broke 20 at one point, but here we are. Hey, England. It's like that's what happens here, living in England. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. And as George alluded to, we're going to get into a subject. There are certain things you don't talk about, politics and religion, among the most important and most polarizing of those. But we're going to do a little something different tonight, because this is something that we've been on the fringes of for a long time when we talk about the paranormal. So we're going to get a little deeper into it tonight. And this is one of those shows where we're going to rely heavily on the chat room. Weigh in with your questions, and they don't necessarily have to fall in line with what we're talking about tonight, because we're an open book. Oh, Michelle, 6 degrees in Kentucky. Wow. Yeah. So if you have something you want to weigh in, whether that's a story of your own or an opinion of your own, because I think this is one of those shows that's going to garner some strong opinions either way. And we're going to learn about this just as you do, as we kind of talk our way through it. I've made copious notes and things that I'm going to throw out there, not necessarily my own beliefs, but just a sort of conglomerate thing of what may be going on in the world right now regarding the paranormal and religion. And of course, the topic tonight has the paranormal in many ways started to replace religion? So we'll kind of walk you through that, why, I believe that there's definitely a movement afoot, and hope you join along with us. And the only other announcement I have to make is very soon, Dead Air is going to be joining the Patreon family.
Woohoo!
And we have something in store for those who decide to come along as members, and something a little bit different that we'll get into in the next couple of weeks that's much different than the show you see on Sundays, kind of an unfiltered version.
Yeah, I want to pick out the levels. You know, you have the dollar level, which is the orb level, the $5 level, which is the apparition level, and then the $10 level, which is the demon level. So we'll
Yeah,
let
the
you guys know
demonic
more.
level.
There we go.
But it's going to include you, our viewers, more than anything. It's not just going to be, we're going to just mail you a bunch of stuff, although we could get to that. But yes, Sandy, the channel will still be here on Sundays and all the other shows that are on it. This is just something private for those who decide to sign up for it, that is going to include our viewers. And like I say,
Right.
not just sending out merch and things like that, but really engaging. So we've got a couple of ideas along that. Let's flesh it out a little bit and we will get there. It'll be a lot of fun. So, George, without further ado, why don't we bring in our co-host for tonight?
Yes.
So
Hello.
we have Erin Bush.
Hello.
Hello
we doing?
again.
Hello again. It's nice to be back. Freezing in Florida, she said sarcastically.
Excellent.
No, it's
Hello,
accurate.
Arizona. Hey, listen, just a word, George, before we go into this. If you're watching us on Facebook, there should be a link there where you click on StreamYard. Just enter your name, get out of there, come back here, and we'll be able to see who you are. Because I know a lot of our Facebook users are actually people we know. So we just would like to recognize this. So if you take, a couple of seconds, you're not signing up for anything, don't worry. Just allows us to see your name. And with that, take it away, George.
Me? This is your baby. Well, you did the childbirth. I guess I'm doing the babysitting. So
yeah, I'll land the plane and you can fly it.
I can tell you this right now, guys, is I am probably going to go head to head with Ken on this. It may not be as articulate as Ken will present or informative as Ken may present, but it's just my own feeling with regards to it. There was a question posed just before we went on air about is religion disappearing? And I'm like, hell no. It's so large at this point in time. It has become more so from a political standpoint. Influences in our politics, influences in local politics, decision making state to state. And there's so many of these people that put themselves in places they shouldn't be, rather than really adhering to what it says in the Bible and caring for your neighbor, loving your friends and family. It is now tear everything apart, and it's only going to be exclusively for one club. So I don't really see it in that sense. Maybe in a population, what is the population of Christianity? Was the population of any religion that's out there? Is it slowly reducing? That's again, I didn't look up stats. I know that Ken did, but in my particular opinion, it has become a force to reckon with, at least in our country at this time. And I'm sure, again, depending on the religion, whether it's a Muslim religion, the Jewish religion, the Buddhist religion. I mean, worldwide, going back to the movie Contact, they still talk about the fact that 95% of the world believes in a higher power. I can't see it reducing much as far as what I can observe that's out there, but I could be wrong. Ken, you could correct me on that. I don't know.
Well, let's start with a question. Do you consider yourself a religious person, George?
No, but that hasn't changed in my life. I think the last time I went to church was on 9/11. Prior to that was when I was 9 or 11. That was basically it.
Yeah. I don't consider myself a religious person. Erin, do you consider yourself a religious person?
Oh, no. After 12 years of Catholic school, I consider myself a recovering Catholic. So if that tells you all you need to know, probably in 2 words.
Okay,
So
so,
no.
my follow-up to that, has your experiences, both of you, have your experiences in the paranormal informed that at all? I'm not talking about when we were 9/11, not chasing ghosts, but I'm talking about in our adult life, our involvement with the paranormal. Has that informed you in that regard? Has it pushed you maybe even a little further away from organized religion?
Or that is a loaded question. It's also a loaded gun, because depending upon which team you talk to, and they talk about protection before going an investigation, and whether it is blessed particular artifacts that they wear around their neck, St. Christopher, St. Michael, a crucifix, with that belief that if something were to happen, that those forces of good would protect them in those circumstances. Then we talk about the D word, demon, and how many people are obsessed with that in this field when they go to these haunted locations, when they do investigations, especially. And again, I don't really truly believe that they care about anything but the almighty dollar, but the influencers that are out there that are doing these investigations, mostly these younger kids. It's got to be a demon. Do you know anything about the demon? Have you done any research on demonology? No, it's a demon, though. I know it's evil. And the antithesis of a demon would be an angel.
Right.
The antithesis of Satan would be God. So they coexist. So I don't see that in the time that I've done this, when I still play that EVP from Jen's house when we did the investigation years ago of Hell is a Terrible Place was the EVP. It makes you think about certain things. When I've had these night terrors for God so many years now, and in those harrowing times, I would wake up saying Psalm 23, wake up saying the Lord's Prayer, immediately result to that. And that's not necessarily religion. I understand that, Ken. I'm talking about faith, not religion. So it's that very,
Or
very
are
fine
you?
line that cross over.
Or
So-
are you? Erin, what do you say to that?
I think for me, I was really angry at the church. I would definitely have always considered myself having a faith, I guess. I think for me, when I started sort of my work and doing energy healing, it took me probably about a year or two before I was able to reconcile with the fact that what I was actually doing was a religion's version of praying. But for me, I would consider myself a spiritual person. I have a faith, and there's a lot of things in the Catholic faith that I do believe, but at the same time, for me, it took me a while to be able to rationalize that what I was doing is the same exact thing. I think the difference for me is in a situation like this, you can be a faith-based person, but I think what I love about the side of things I'm on now is that it gets to be very individualized. I don't have to, nobody's sitting there telling me what I can and can't do all the time. It's something I get to explore freely. I absolutely believe in a higher power. I mean, I'm sober too, so that's, a big part of that. But, for people call it God, people call it source, people call it whatever it is. I don't think there's a meme running around. It's like nobody's denying its existence, right? It's just everybody's opinion on things is different. But for me, organized religion has always been a way to rule and keep people in fear. And I'm just going to say that because that's just my personal opinion. It's not, that's just literally my personal opinion. And so I have found a lot of freedom. And in that, finding that freedom, I've also been able to sort of turn back in and start being able to call myself a person that has a faith. It's just not an organized religion. So
Right.
yeah, I think long story short, yes, I think being in this field and then being in energy work has definitely kind of brought me back to some of that. A lot of the things I really had a big problem with. So that's been really good, I think. Yeah.
But yet you'd both agree that people in the paranormal borrow very freely from religion. When we start talking about angels and the demonic and cleansing rituals. So
Well,
we haven't entirely let go of that. Now you talk about people in the paranormal being more free thinkers, but yet we hearken back to the Bible, to our religious teachings as a tool in the toolbox as we deal with these things. So henceforth, why the paranormal is kind of almost working its way through religion, where you can draw correlations between the two. You know, so when we talk about we're using the scientific method, and we're going to talk a little bit about the scientific method and science in general. But when using the scientific method, and we come as skeptics, and we use science to decide what we do. And then a lot of sane people will gather on the lawn and do a ritual, a clearing ritual, or a ritual of protection. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But still, we hearken back to religion in some form. Okay, even though we are not supposed to, not everyone. I mean, obviously you have demonologists and people out there, so, but we still hearken back to religion in some form as we make our way through the paranormal. Now, I will just say, let's get this out of the way. And this was always the conflict in my mind. Because if we're talking about the Bible, New Testament, Old Testament, St. J, it doesn't matter. God is a spirit. Jesus returned from the grave to walk the earth after his death, and people pray to the Holy Spirit. So what do you think a soul is, if not a spirit?
Right.
Okay. Yet the Bible teaches us not to become involved or commune with spirits. So there's an interesting dichotomy there. I mean, so I think what happens is people start to question that inequity.
Yeah.
And they're not blindly just going along with it, because we evolve as a culture, as a people. We start to think a little bit more, which is what they try to take from us, you know, on things like news shows. Here's the news. Now we'll take that burden off you to make up your own mind, and we'll just give you a bunch of opinions, right?
Right.
But people start to question religion. So I want to get people's thoughts on that. And listen, again, weigh in chat. If we will get to your comments and questions at some point, we're marking them, we're starring them, we'll circle back, because we want you to be involved in this too. So I would ask you, before we go any further, about that sort of inequity between what the Bible says and what the Bible teaches us, but at the same time, what the Bible tells us to stay away from. I mean, religion is all about ghosts, isn't it?
Yeah.
If not all
Father,
about
Son, Holy Ghost. I mean, come on, it's in the Trinity.
Pretty close, right?
You know.
Well, there are so many life lessons provided to us in the Bible. How we treat ourselves, our family, each other, the betrayals that occur in man. I mean, it really comes down to, from the religious or the spiritual standpoint, those interventions, whether they were violent by God, or they were blessed by God or by Jesus. It just really is. It's a teaching tool that, again, old school Christianity, which is one of the reasons, and we've discussed this on the show before, why we always hear about the woman in white, or the small child, or the soldier not crossing over, and the possibility that they are worried about purgatory. They're worried about not being able to find the loved ones on the other side, because in their mind and spirit, they had committed some sort of sin, whether a soldier was worried about murder, whether the wife committed suicide, uh, you name it, that's out there that kind of corners you as an individual to say,
Mm-hmm.
I've done some things and I'm not sure I'm going to make it to heaven, so I'm going to stay right here. And that was, I think, one of the reasons why that particular period, where most of these older areas in the Northeast, especially, have those sightings over and over and over again, is the ones that are terrified to give up this plane of existence and move on to the next one because of judgment. So
Sure.
now, Ken, as far as that's concerned, I do not think since the time of existentialism that people worry about that as much or think about that as much. There are pockets, no question about it. But for the general populace out there who are just trying to raise a family or pay their bills, have some semblance of life and love, that they're not thinking about that. And if something were to happen, God forbid, car accident, an ailment, some sort of health issue, think about a health issue, it gives them a little bit more time to think about it. I hope I make it to heaven. I hope it make my loved ones, but
Mm.
it's not as profound as it was in the 1800s, early
Mhm.
1900s, where now it's just roll the dice kind of a thing. It's really weird. It's completely changed. If that's what you're saying about the downslide of religion, I would agree with you on that. As far as the volume of people that are still doing it, because it's a community thing, it's a social thing. You're an outcast if you don't do it. That I can accept more than we got to get to church because we got to say our prayers because we got to make sure we do all the right things.
Yeah.
Society just doesn't look like that anymore. It just doesn't.
No.
Helping your
No.
neighbor, I don't want to know my neighbor. They could be a serial killer. I don't want to talk to them. So it puts you in a perspective of almost forced recruitment to get involved with that.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't explain the title of tonight's show. And I don't know how, because I mean, with religion, you have somewhat of a pyramid. You get the Pope and you go on down from there. That there is leadership and there is community. And I don't feel that in this field that it's any kind of a community to be a religion.
I think it gives us a chance to explore the other side in a way that organized religion, kind of doesn't want us to do, right? Because that's not something they can control. But I think, like, my perspective on heaven and hell's changed a lot. I mean, my parents weren't crazy Catholics. They sent us to Catholic school because the public schools in Atlanta were really bad. It was the better alternative, right? But I've come to realize now, I think, given that as humans, we have free will, I think people get so stuck on the whole heaven or hell argument. The way I've sort of started looking at that is I feel like if you in your heart of hearts feel like when you die, you're going to end up in hell, which is fire and brimstone, endless screaming and agony forever. That's where you end up. If you feel like at the end of the day, when you die, you're going to wake up on a beach somewhere with, in my case, a stack of endless tacos and every dog I've ever owned, then that's where I'm going to go. Right? Like, I think people are finding that it's okay to think other things aside what the religion has forced you to have to believe. You can't argue it. You can't question it. So I think the paranormal, I don't know that it's becoming a religion, but is it giving us the freedom to explore what we're actually wanting to follow more? Is it giving us a better defined idea of what's important to us in this particular field? Because, of course, my end of it is more the metaphysical side of things. The two always intertwine. But I also can see, with the paranormal, there are, we have fanatical type situations with, celebrities. And that's when Ken first brought it to me. I'll be honest, that's what I thought we were discussing, was like how, this has become such, where we started looking at some of these paranormal celebrities and some of these locations like the end all be all, that the reason we kind of got into this field has been sort of lost in the shuffle. So that was my kind of thought on the thing, as far as people are becoming obsessed with the celebrity side of things, and we've kind of gotten away from learning about a location, history. It doesn't have to be about clicks and likes and who's a bigger YouTuber or whatever. So I think there's other questions that you could tie into this as well, as far as it doesn't even have to always be about like actual religion, but people's obsession with this field in itself can almost make it go that way as well. So I think there's a lot to unpack with this whole conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So we're working our way through this, trust me. And we'll get to some of these questions that may answer where I'm coming from. How many people do you talk to right now where you might hear this? It's like, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person.
That's me.
Okay. Does anybody have a definition of that? Because I'll tell you my definition of it. You can agree or disagree. The only difference in my mind between religion and spirituality is in religion, you follow someone on the journey. In spirituality, you take the journey yourself.
Yeah.
And have your own experience. You don't follow a denomination. You don't follow a religious person. You don't follow a member of the clergy. You don't get up and kneel down and stand up and spin around. And
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the sales, and
all the church rituals. I believe a spiritual person is one that breaks off from that and goes on their own journey.
Yes, agreed. For me,
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, I think in a lot of situations too, especially if you're talking about the spiritual end of things, part of what I do is I help people kind of start their journey, right? But I'm always very emphatic that I'm just walking it with you. I'm not walking it in front of you. Like, this is your journey. This is your path. I'm just here to kind of give you some tools and things like that. And so I think the spiritual end of things gives us a lot more. I just keep going back to that freedom thing. And I think a lot of spiritual people, if they're into helping others, then you're usually coming from a position of walking beside someone, not walking ahead of them. So you're less inclined to have someone look at you like you're the all end all be all, because you're just trying to prove the point that, hey, this is your path. This is an individual path. It's different for everyone. And I always say there's no rules. I have one rule, and that's if I do energy work, you have to drink water, but that's literally it. I think it just allows people a lot more freedom than we had in organized religion growing up.
Isn't it funny though? You think of Native American culture, and which was countrywide before we started to exterminate tribes one after another all over the United States. They had no organized religion, but you can't say that they were not a spiritual society. They certainly were spiritual,
Right.
and still are, but didn't subscribe to let's build a church in honor of our Lord Jesus Christ or to God. It was entrenched within the community to begin with. And isn't it funny that up until including today, that is one of the most fearful events for paranormal investigators, is to encounter, I should say, something Native American at a haunt. That it could be the most potentially the most powerful event happening at that location. It's quite interesting. So no matter what, the religion part of it, the actual idea, the concept of religion is no more powerful than the concept of spirituality. If it holds that much of a lore behind it, I think it has just as much of a belief potential in it as those who are churchgoers.
Understand, though, that Native American spirituality is very contained.
How?
They're not spreading it all over the world like Christianity or Protestantism. And many of their traditions are of the oral nature. They're passed down through generations.
Yes.
You know, can you walk on a Native American reservation with impunity? You know, no. You can't have like federal officers in there. Okay, so when you're
Yeah.
talking about that, you're talking about a spiritualism that has been contained probably for the better, and those traditions are passed down. But
Mhm.
still, in Native American culture, a younger generation is still starting to question those,
Mhm.
just like they are here. This is
I
why
don't
you
know
see
about
so
that.
many. You don't know about that?
I don't know about that.
You don't know about that?
Again, I don't know about that. Where's the research? Where's the report on that that says? Pull it up. Is it on the screen too?
Oh yeah, here you go.
Well, you have some other stats. I thought maybe you
You get
copied that
that?
one too.
No, this is widespread where this is why you see churches closing, because generation has come and gone and now there are no more parishioners. A younger generation is not coming in and taking care of the church financially,
Right.
physically. This is why churches are closing all over the place. You're looking skeptical.
Yeah.
You've never seen a church just close up after 140 years of being open. That's a foreign concept.
Well, a lot of them are economy based too. I mean, you look at a city like Detroit, and after they
Because
lost all the motor businesses,
nobody's
nobody.
putting money in the basket
No,
anymore.
because they couldn't afford it. Exactly. We can't afford to go to church. We can't afford to pay our dues that are needed. And things change at that point in time. Yet there are, for the first time, the last, I would say, 40 years now, the mega churches just
Yeah,
exploded, just
right.
exploded. So it's no longer, the town church where you can fit, if you're lucky, 150, 200 people. Now it's 200,000. I mean, it's insane the amount of money
Right.
that they're making. Hell, here in Orlando, Aaron should be familiar with it, although they just closed themselves,
The Holy Land experience?
the
No,
Holy Land Experience.
you know, I,
But people who
I have
don't,
something very
but
inappropriate about
people
that
who
place. I'll
don't
probably get in
have
trouble.
two nickels to rub
Yeah.
together will donate to a they'll contribute to a political fund.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of choice. It's not just that you don't have the money, you're not there in a physical
Yeah.
sense to do anything. There are no women's guilds anymore. There is no,
It's all online.
Sunday school. People are questioning religion.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can give this a try, George.
I don't subscribe to it. I'm
Give it a
sorry.
shot. Well, you don't have to subscribe.
And I warned you guys that this might happen tonight, that Ken and I might have alternate.
Hit the notification bell.
And the thumbs up. And the thumbs up.
And the thumbs up.
I wanted to. Can I say something real quick too? On
Of course.
Just in watching, I'm watching some of the comments come through. Like, I hope people understand that we're not saying you have to be either a spiritualist and into the paranormal or religious. I mean, it is very clear that you can be all of those things together at once, right?
Yeah,
Like
the
nobody here saying that
underlying thing
you.
is whoever you are out there who's kind enough to invite us into your homes tonight, you be you.
Yeah.
There's a judgment-free zone here.
Yeah, you don't have to choose. And I know for like a lot of my perspective is because I didn't have a great experience in Catholic school. I'm still, I mean, I'm 45 years old and I'm still working through issues that happened to me in those 12 years, things we learned and struggles with some of that. So I think it's up to everybody's individual experience, so that's just mine. But no, you don't have to. Oh, really, Bernie? You're going to hack a phone on live air? Okay. But I don't think you don't have to be one or the other. You can be all of the things, right? I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
Because one will eventually inform the other.
Right.
But getting back to beliefs in like supernatural phenomena, right? If we look at, again, what religion teaches us about this, right? It makes it almost impossible to rationally separate religion from the paranormal. And here's what I mean by that. something that you'd call supernatural impersonation. Okay, and here's what I mean, because we hear this all the time. Somebody claims to hear the voice of God. Somebody else claims you're hearing the voice of the devil, right? Somebody claims to see a miracle from God's angel. Someone else claims that the power came from Satan's demon. Somebody talks to the ghost of their grandmother. Somebody else claims that one person said she came down from heaven. Somebody else says, how do you know you're talking to your grandmother? This could be a trickster impersonating your grandmother. You know, a prayer, you say a prayer for good weather, or geez, I hope I'm able to, play the guitar better. And then somebody else will say, well, you entered into a deal with the devil.
Right.
So you always have those contrary, those pulling, to take it another step further. A religious person can interpret technology as magic, right? Yeah. Okay. People were burned at the stake for predicting the weather. They said it was going to rain. They could feel it in their bones, and it rained immediately. People were pointing fingers at them, right? Women were burnt as witches by coming up with medicines and elixirs way back in the day. Men were making the same elixirs, and somehow they escaped all of this. All right. So
the way it always is for us women.
Okay, somebody thinks Ouija board is a conduit to ghosts, and they can claim they're doing it scientifically if they want to. Okay. So are drugs magic, or are they technology? Now we look at them. We're going to get in. I'm going to go deep on science here. We look at this as technology now. Back then, it was a deal with the devil or dark magic, or how that went. So we take these religious things, and this is what I mean by paranormal impersonation, because no matter what, somebody is always going to hearken back to what the Bible has taught. And, we hear that all the time. I received a message of love, and it's like, be careful. It could be a trickster. You don't know who you're talking to. You open the door. So it's like people won't let you take things for face value anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, and the reason that belief in the paranormal may be growing is that people, sentient beings like ourselves, still have a need for meaning, for significance, to where do I fit in the universe? That type of thing. Something greater than themselves. So if God is falling out of favor with some people, something else needs to come along and fill that void. And that could be the spirit world, aliens, Bigfoot, whatever the case may be. As we move further away from that, we entertain alternate, I don't want to call it, they're not deities, but alternate beings that are bigger than ourselves. So this is why I start to get into the paranormal kind of replacement theory. As we move away from religion, as we move away from God, I'm going to ask you a question. How many scientists do you believe in God? I don't have a number, but just an open question. How many skeptics, how many scientists do you think believe in God?
Well, wait a minute. Skeptics or scientists? Because skeptics, obviously, they don't. Scientists, I'd say about 70%.
70% of scientists? You think so? It's a shot? Okay.
No clue. No clue.
Because don't forget, it in a lot of ways it runs contrary to what science preaches us.
What's one of the first things the astronauts say after they return home from a space trip? Thank God, thank my family, thank the scientists and the specialists for the launch, and thank Elon Musk, whatever. But sooner or later, it's thank God. Now, I don't know. Again, I always refer back to the movie Contact with Tom Skerritt. Never. He was a scientist, but he knew that that was going to influence those people choosing who was going to go on the mission. So he went right with God, and that's, could be part of it also. It could be, again, just as political, maybe not Washington political, but society political, to say that, to rightly say that, and again, you look at it across society, and it's possible in any faction of science or study, people are still going to refer back to that. It's ingrained, Ken. It's ingrained in this country for 250 years. It's something that it's not going to go away, in my opinion. I'm not asking it to go away. Everybody should hold on to whatever it is that gives them that comfort, whatever that is. Mine is just speaking aloud. Whenever I want to talk, I speak aloud. I don't need to have four walls and 200 other people around me to feel that sensation. I can feel it immediately. I have felt it immediately. So I'm not preaching. Funny word to use. I'm not preaching to the masses that are out there that go to church and follow religion. I'm just simply saying it's a selective thing. And again, same thing in the paranormal. Let me ask you a reverse question, Ken. How many people in the paranormal field, percentage wise, are still very much religious based?
Couldn't tell you.
I think probably quite a few. Quite a few.
They use religion in their methodology, whether they know it or not. But I look at it this way. The United States is how old now? 246, 250 years. Let's round it off. Do you think religion is important as now as it was 250 years ago? Do you think it's as widespread? Do you think it's as embraced as it was?
No.
Okay. So what happens 100 years from now? You say it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
What happens 100 years from now? Or if we're still around and the big asteroid doesn't hit 200 years from now? Okay. It's never going to go away, but people more and more are questioning religion as a means of control.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because I mean, if you're talking about 100 years in the future with no calamities, no horrible, earth-shaking events, then yes, with everything that's going on technologically right now, there is a strong possibility that people are going to be distracted more and more and more, going a different direction. But take a calamitous event, something that is so horrible, or an unprecedented event such as full-on contact with extraterrestrials. It's a game changer on many different levels. You don't think, and we've talked about this many times on the show, but you don't think that if we made full-on contact, and I'm talking about the dialogue is there, it's open, everybody knows about it, regardless of what the people on social media are going to twist, but just here it is, fact on the news, in black and white on papers, the interaction. And that question comes up about religion, and the extraterrestrials say there is no actual higher power. There's a consensus of cells. The whole galaxy is interconnected. You become part of the but they say no, there's no real God, or the Jesus thing is kind of just like a bedtime story.
Okay,
it's not
so-
real.
so
Wait, let me
that's-
finish. So we go through that, and they come in and they say it doesn't exist. You don't think that the Vatican and other religious leaders are going to turn around and say heretic? They're in line with Lucifer. Of course they are. To save their money, to save their power, they're going to take the opposite side. They're not going to sit there and go, Well, these guys have technology 1,000 years above us. They must know what they're talking about. No, it's the devil's work. Thank you for letting me
Well,
finish.
you say you believe 70% of scientists are religious. How is that exponentially going to change as we keep sending the James Webb telescope and the Hubble telescope? Do you think they're going to adhere to the idea that God created heaven and earth? When
Yeah.
they find you really believe that they will.
If it's entrenched
And they
in their
created
life,
aliens and everything else.
it's entrenched in their life. If they were raised that certain way, if they were, God, I don't want to use the word, brainwashed is a harsh word. If they were societally trained and educated in that route, then yes, it's always a default. It's always a default. Look, we get paranormal experiences all the time. Not everything is recorded on film, not everything is recorded on audio, and we tell our ghost stories. We were there, we experienced it. We have more in the paranormal field experiences than those who have experiences with God or Jesus. Other than their justifiable reasons, I did not get in that accident because of God, because of my guardian angels, because of my spirit, because of Jesus. That's why, but it's not tangible. We have tangible experiences. This kind of tangible experience in the religious field would warrant the Vatican looking into it. If it was something of that magnitude, that people were experiencing things on a God level, Jesus level, holy level, seeing the Virgin Mary, appear on Broad Street, or Main Street, and everybody's seeing it, they're going to come in and validate that. We see something that is absolutely mind-boggling, and we're just a bunch of kooks. We're imagining stuff. We're overtired. We're over-caffeinated, but it's not real.
Right.
Well, I
It's a
mean,
paradox.
if you don't want to know, don't explore it, because as they're exploring it, the origins of the universe now are starting to reveal themselves, and they're going to have what we like to call a crisis of faith at some point, because they're already starting to discover how universes are formed, and they can certainly adhere to their religious teachings, but they're peeling back the layers of the onion, which are going to be in direct contrast to a lot of the things that they believe. So, with that, I know we're coming up close to break here.
Yeah.
Erin, do you have any thoughts on this before we go anywhere?
I mean, I think, and Mikey Thompson put in the chat how many scientists believe in the paranormal, but I also, because I think that's a fair question too, and I was kind of going to go that direction, because I think we're actually seemingly, between what we're learning about quantum physics, quantum entanglement, talking about the unified field of consciousness, the God particle, like take your angle in that particular conversation. To me, it's starting to feel like we're actually starting to somewhat close the gap between the two, like religion and science. And maybe that sounds insane, but I feel like, for example, there is an episode of Ancient Aliens, which I don't watch very often, but they were actually doing a scientific test on a Reiki healer, which is what I do, doing data, measuring the energy in a healer's hands to try and tie in how that works from a physics standpoint. And is that actually a real thing? And they're now starting to document data on energy healers, so I feel like we're starting to sort of narrow the gap. And I do think a lot of scientists are starting to believe in the paranormal, because there's just too many things that are starting to come out. Sort of to Ken's point, who's to say 150 years from now, we basically have everybody, I mean, that's never going to happen, but everybody in agreement. Like, I just feel like on some level, we're starting to sort of narrow the gap a little bit instead of widening it on belief.
Well, there are three reasons in my mind that people start to move away from this. There are three entities. They're very powerful entities. They have nothing to do with the divine. And we got a few minutes. We can come back on the other half. Number one, I blame science to some degree. Okay. For all the yelling about that doesn't exist, it's not real. by a lot of them who haven't taken the time to really do any research into the paranormal or, you know, the psychological makeup of the paranormal. You know, despite what they say, over the years, there's been some pretty strong evidence presented that whatever we call the paranormal exists. But every time something like that comes out, they move the goalposts. Well, we need this. Okay, we'll give you that. No, but now we need this. Well, maybe we'll go and work. We'll give you that. Now we're going to move it over here now. Science protects its interests. Make no mistake about that. Paranormal events usually don't have a measurement. You know, they're observations of an individual. And when the individual relates that event, people who they tell to explain what happened, they'll say, you were hallucinating or it didn't happen. So every time anything that resembles tangible proof comes along, again, science moves the goalposts. Well, now we need this. It's not enough. So people start to, again, question science a little bit. Okay. The second entity is the media. All the media does is make fun of the paranormal. No matter what happens out there, whoever the anchor is, well, we got some little green men here. Even though they may be believers, they're going to frame it that way because they don't want to lose credibility. So everybody involved in the paranormal has a tinfoil hat on. The third entity is actually the government. You know, they have said for years and years and years, there's nothing out there. They come up with programs like Grudge, Sign, Blue Book. There's nothing out there. Now they admit there's something out there. Okay, but they're not ready to take any leap beyond we just don't know what it is, which is scary enough. So those three entities tend to push people away from religion or, you know, anything else, because everything is hard and fast, and they all share a little bit of the responsibility in that, because they don't take it seriously, you know. So where we got now, we got a couple of minutes, I guess. So
Yeah. Aaron, comments?
I think my brain hurts a little. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's a fascinating subject to cover, because there's you know, when we first started talking about getting into this, it was like, well, where are we going to go? I think we're not going to run out of places to go with this, because there's so many different angles, and like people are saying, everything is subjective. It's, you know, and I think so much of what's happening is based on individual experiences. Obviously, formulates which way we end up going. And yeah, like Michelle said, nothing is 100% in science. I don't know. It's a wild discussion to have. That's about all I got. I'm trying to process what Ken just tossed out there. My brain's still working on that one.
well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that those entities tend to try to devalue what people experience.
Until they don't. And that's the key value of what I've said time and time again, particularly about government, particularly about politics. And I honestly believe that they are, in one way, shape, or form, monitoring everything that we do as a field in the expectation and anticipation of advancement, some sort of a discovery. I'm going to say this right before we go to break, just so I can aggravate everybody. To weaponize whatever it may be, to be able to weaponize. Don't you think, again, when we talk about psychics, and I don't mean to go into your realm too much, Aaron, but I'm talking about those people that, you know, can read a room and be able to specifically point out people and their relatives speaking to them. If this was an actual capability, and Ken, I don't know if there was a name for it back in the 70s, 80s. Russia was doing it, and we were doing it also, may have even been earlier than that. but it was projects to try and use the supernatural to be able to see what your opponent was
Stargate.
doing. Stargate.
And Stargate, MK Ultra.
And so you think in those terms, they're always searching and waiting. What is the best next weapon against our adversaries? How do we protect us and our allies against them? And to this degree, we're not aware of it, meaning the three of us and those who are watching tonight. But there's always that possibility that there have been discoveries made. And in those circumstances, that's when you hear the urban legend of people disappearing, people dying mysteriously, going all the way back to Tesla. When things are discovered, people want to possess that, and and keep it in secret and keep it tucked away for that day that it absolutely is necessary. I believe that wholeheartedly. Whether it is religion, whether it's the paranormal, whether it's discoveries in technology. It's whatever is going to benefit the national defense first. And there's no escaping the obvious fact of that. And so that's where I ended as far as that's concerned. But when we get to the other side of our break here, guys, so we refresh your drinks. But we're going to get into some of the questions that we now have, quite a few in the chat we'll get to, and continue our discussion and our journey on a very, very slippery slope about religion and the paranormal. So you guys stay with us. Don't forget, again, I want you to hit that subscribe button. Also, we got thumbs up going tonight, guys. Keep it going. More. Click on the thumbs up during the break, all right? So you don't miss anything. And the reminder bell. But we'll be back just on the other side of the break, about 3 minutes away. You guys stay with us. You are watching Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back in just a little bit.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you'd like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to the second hour of our show tonight. The topic is, has the paranormal become a religion? We'll get to your questions in just a moment. Ken, you want to kind of give everybody a hint of what we've got coming up the next couple of weeks?
Sure. Next week, we are going to welcome back part of the Dead Air family, Melissa St. Hilaire, the American Witch, who just recently completed a 6-episode arc called Secrets of the Craft. Melissa has a new book out, and we're going to discuss that as well as the show, which was very well received, very well done. And my understanding, one of the subjects of one of the episodes, Pleasant Gurman, the rock and roll witch, is going to be joining in. And
nice.
We will learn more secrets of the craft. So if you haven't seen it, please do, particularly the episode with Pleasant. She's actually, you know, just as her name suggests, very much so. And she's a hoot, and you're going to love her. So that is going to be next week on Dead Air. In 2 weeks, we are hoping to welcome back Rochelle Stratton and Brian Murray. Nice. From Ghost Hunters, and they also have a new podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So much coming up. Stay with us here. Stay with us.
The podcast is great. I can vouch for their podcast. I've been streaming that in the mornings when I walk. They are very funny.
Yes,
those
they
two.
are.
Very funny.
So if you guys want to keep tabs of what's coming up again, subscribe, hit that reminder bell. And also thumbs up for tonight, guys. We're at 7.
I have a question.
I'm looking to reach to 10. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Do we think Melissa's going to do another series of that? Because I love that show. Sorry for the squeaky toy.
We'll have to put a pressure campaign on her.
Yeah, something like that.
We're going to have to lean on her. So we're going to need everybody in chat to say, "Aw."
Yeah. As a dog owner, is that a squeaky toy or an actual bark?
Squeaky toy currently, and of course his timing as usual is epic. So I will be muting in and out because it's just not
wants your attention.
Y'all know me.
Sounded like me after my prostate surgery.
Yeah. Okay.
Too much information there. Sorry, I forgot where I was.
All right. Well,
back, everyone.
let's hit those questions right now, Ken.
Sure.
If you want to start off, I'll follow up behind. Here we go. First one.
Why do people need a psychological concept like the demonic to blame for bad things happening rather than taking accountability for their actions? Something we've discussed at length on this show with a lot of people. It's just a matter of accountability, Sarah. Sometimes it's easier to blame external forces than it is to take responsibility and look inward. And a lot of times these things are coincidental. We just moved into a new house. And ever since we moved in here, this is happening. You know, I lost my job or, you know, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times people misdirect that, which is not to say that outside influences aren't possible. But for the most part, in my experience, people need to look in the mirror first, you know, before they jump to any kind of conclusion. So it's easily available. to a lot of people who may be predisposed to unquestionably believe in those things.
Yeah. Ken was extremely savvy to say, external influences rather than the word demonic, because I agree with Ken 100%, Sarah. There's, those people that will subscribe to some superstition or another. I broke a mirror, I walked under a ladder, whatever it may be, and blame it on that as well. Some people just say it's just my luck. But there are occurrences though that people to the extreme will put this under the guise of demonic. But then then you got to hire people to come into the house, like a local demonologist, and then it starts getting real messy. It's like the old adage of psychics coming in because you were cursed by somebody, and now they have to remove the curse, and it's only going to cost you $800. Things of that sort. Aaron, response?
I think I always typically come at stuff like this from an energetic perspective. I think for a lot of people, if they take a step back and to your point, you're talking about, oh, well, it's just my luck. Well, you're just right there vibrationally continuing your bad luck. If you are constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you're constantly waiting for something bad to happen from an energetic perspective, that's the universe is only able to give you back what you put out. I do think accountability is a big thing with some of this. I also think people say that want to go straight to demonic because we live in a society where if you can't assign one of your 5 physical senses to it, then it can't be real.
Yeah. Another point there, Sarah, what you're saying here is absolutely true. People who want to take the polar side of good can sit there and say, it's just God testing me. It's God giving me hurdles because it'll make me stronger as I overcome these hurdles. So, it's a twofer. And each one of these depends on the perspective that you take.
We're also always giving our power away to other people too, right? So I think once you start realizing that you're much more in control of the things around you and the things that are meant to come your way, there can be a shift there as well.
Indeed, there can. All right, next question here.
Okay, Ethan Supernatural, I'm also noticing this debunking wave that has no foundation for a lot of the claims. I purposely put this one on here so I could have a word with you for a moment, folks.
Full screen.
The debunking wave is real. It certainly has reached our show to some level, and I think everybody knows what I'm alluding to. The ironic part of this, and the part that frustrates me more than anything, is a lot of people who were accused and being debunked, using air quotes, are doing this for fame, fortune, for the money, taking advantage of people. And what is happening out there is who's really benefiting from it? Is it them, or is it the people who are getting more subscribers, who are getting more likes, that can now monetize their channel and just perpetuate this thing because the train is rolling and Google and YouTube are starting to pay off for them? So I don't want to go into it any further than that, but just something to keep in your mind the next time you see a video pointing the finger at somebody and they're being accused of, making all this money. And my question is, who's really being appropriated here? That's a thing now. Attack videos, people follow algorithms, they follow numbers. If I'm talking about this and I get tens of thousands of viewers, I'm going to talk about it again. And I might even talk about it 9 more times after that. Yeah. So let's just keeping it real here, folks.
It's exceptionally hard to debunk anything that you are seeing on a two-dimensional screen. And there are videos out there that are quite convincing. Anybody ever see on social media the guy's in his house and there's these 2 childlike hands keep hitting the outside patio window, and then he turns on the patio lights and it's not there? That's fantastic. I know it's not real, but that's fantastic. So, when people come up in these minds that I'm going to solve this, I'm going to figure this out by watching this, not being there, not being present. We know why you're doing it. And again, a lot of them that are doing it are only going after the high tier. They're going after the people on the TV shows because people who scroll recognize you are mentioning Ken DaCosta. If Ken had, well, Ken, you're going to be on some kind of Netflix show, I think, or you were. So something like that. Ken DaCosta. Oh, well, Ken DaCosta and what he did had 3.5 million views. Let's attack him because even if we get 300,000 views, we're making money through YouTube. So it works for us.
You know, if I get 3.5 million views, you know what I call that?
Retirement?
Fair trade.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Next question here for us. Are we not supposed to practice necromancy or commune with the spirits? Is that a translation issue in the New Bible or the King James translation?
No, you got me, Michelle. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not religious. In case you missed that part of the show.
Well, ask Aaron. Does Aaron commune with spirits?
No, it's a general statement from the, I'm not sure if it's King James translation, but not communing with spirits or communing with spirits is a no-no.
I think my thought on that is the fact that the word suppose is in there. And I think we can do whatever we want to. I mean, you do it safely, you do it respectfully, you do it kindly, you do it with good intent. But I think for me at this point, I think it's hard for people when it's like, I fell into this too with a lot of this stuff. It's more from a rules perspective. Like, what am I supposed to do or not supposed to do? And I think that can play a big role into it too. People feel like it's wrong because they heard, whether it was in the Bible or they heard it somewhere, that's wrong. Well, says who, right? Like, who says that? Who decides
wait a minute.
that?
Doesn't that go right down the reinforced delusion path of, this good book written by people says do not do this? Because let's say that you do commune with spirit and you go public with it, you're either delusional,
right,
schizophrenic, or you're in league with Lucifer. You're not really speaking. There's no good side to being able to say, I can and I have spoken with spirit, I've spoken with angels. Can't have it because you will be villainized immediately. No matter what label they put on you, you're not going to be looked at as, oh, you're blessed. You're blessed. You're wonderful. Maybe your friends will say that. Family members will say that. It gets out to anybody in the religious community. You're a heretic. It's hypocritical as far as I'm concerned. But that's the way that religion works. I'm going to get a hit in chat for that one. All right. Next one, Ken. You ready? Here we go.
Here we go. Ooh. Being a practicing Catholic, lector, and Eucharistic minister in my church, I agree. The Bible contradicts itself as far as spirits and resurrection. Some priests are still old school with their beliefs, but some newer ones are believing more in the paranormal. It's a good point. Good luck, in the ministry, Kathy. There are still some priests, and there's a long word for it that I can't recall right now, who don't think popes from currently going back 50 years ascended to the papacy in the correct way. Those are the old school types who do the rites of exorcism without seeking permission from a diocese, and they still do them in Latin. Those are the old school guys. I think what happens is exactly a reflection of what we're talking about. As a generation of clergy comes in, as we got a message up there, and I'm trying to peek over it.
You're like Wilson in Home Improvement.
Right. as a new generation of clergy comes in, I mean, they're influenced by the same things in popular culture that everybody else is, whether it's paranormal or anything else. You know, there's a movement now, you know, can priests be married? My parents would lose their minds. My grandparents would lose their minds, but they know that it's in the, and by they, like, I'm just talking about the Catholic Church, okay? They know by loosening up the reins a little bit that they might be able to attract a younger generation in. So, sure, there are a lot of younger priests now that I'm sure are fighting the good fight for, you know, their own beliefs beyond Catholic dogma, you know. So you may see a bit more of those, but just bear in mind the church isn't crazy, because if they're going to get involved in these things, they're going to want a complete physical, psychological makeup. All right. Because they're not crazy. And they're also watching the purse strings too, because when the lawsuits come, you know, so there's much more to it than just the way the Warrens used to do it with these secular priests who were sort of like in a sect, sort of broke off from the Catholic Church, who would come and do these things. And they're still out there doing those things. And, you know, if their hearts are in the right place, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I certainly understand what you're saying. And I think you're going to see a change in reasoning, a change in attitudes, because we're seeing that now. Here we go.
Isn't it possible that the acceptance and the adaptation in the church also comes from, we need parishioners, you know, and you're going to come in and you tell me that you do ghost hunting. Well, you know, we need, when we pass around the bucket to, you know, get the donations, you know, we want you to be there. So yeah, you know, could do what you do. Just make sure you don't try to speak with Satan or demons, you know, and keep it with God in your heart. When I will also bless you when you go out to do your investigations. But yes, you're welcome to do that and also be a part of our church. It's economics.
Well, it's, again, it's a cultural thing too, George, because more and more and more people question things. We don't like to be told what to do. You know, we really don't. We you know, we accept it because of our lot in life. We have to do what we're told, whether it's, you know, in employment or, but when it's something that's not quite tangible, like people are hearing, here's what God is, here's what God wants, this is what God says is right and wrong. Okay, but if you walk into a church and say, I saw a ghost, they're going to say, yeah, wow, look at the time, we got to go now. You know, so,
yeah.
And that's it. You know, it's just we're moving away from more and more and more. We're trying to live as individuals here and not be told what to do.
Again, adaptation. Was there a time in the Catholic Church where, you know, if you lived in sin, you were not accepted? If you lived together and unmarried, you were not accepted. And times changed, and the church had to adapt. And I think we're just seeing another phase of that at this point in time. Eventually, churches will accept aliens.
Well, here's a little story, and this is why,
as parishioners,
this was a seminal moment for me. My wife and I had been married by a pastor. Outdoors, lovely. And we'd been married for about 6 years at the time, and decided that, well, I want to bring my kids up in the same church that I was, because we were still living local. So we went and saw the priest. In order to do that, having been married for, I would say, 6 years at the time, I'm talking about communion, confirmation, all of that stuff. We were told we had to attend classes to learn how to be married. Okay. And I'm just kind of like, okay, priest who's never been married is telling me that I need to go to a class taught by him so he can tell me how to be married. That was kind of like a big moment for us, because I had grown up in this church. And I'm already in my 30s at the time, and it's just kind of like, I don't need that. I don't need this. This is to me a bridge too far, because this was something new that they had introduced. And you're going to tell a couple of people like us to attend classes so you can teach us God's ways, and so we can raise our kids in this. And this was still, I'm going to say, a different generation of priests. This was more like old school, but it was a new policy they had, and I wasn't having it. I could not see any value in that.
It's indoctrination, isn't it?
Yeah, but by the same token, at that point, my career, if you want to call it that, in paranormal investigation is burgeoning. And I'm going everywhere and listening to everybody else's stories about demons and people coming back from the dead. And, so the two, they made strange bedfellows.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Next question, if you're ready.
Sure. More of a statement, I think, from Mary Beth. She shared this with everyone in chat. Mary Beth, thank you so much for this, by the way. It took a lot of courage to say this. As an abused child, it took me a long time to accept that God might be real. I have my own faith. I don't follow any church, but I recognize the power that churches can have, especially Catholic. Despite the subject matter tonight, Mary Beth, I couldn't agree with you more. Prayer can be a powerful thing. The collective prayer can be a very powerful thing. And if you use religion to get you through your darkest times, rather than self-abuse or self-guilt or anything destructive to you, if you choose to go on that path to bring peace to yourself, then I could not possibly encourage you more to turn to religion to resolve whatever issue that you're dealing with. I know that sounds like it's not. No, it's not a contradiction, because if you want to turn to paganism or Wicca or whatever brought you peace and got you through the most turbulent times, I am absolutely 100% for you at that point. It's like I say, it's better than self-destructive behavior any day of the week.
Right.
Yeah, by no means. It's not a contradiction. It certainly can be a paradox where church can help or church can be a crutch, which tends to happen all too. I remember right out of high school, I was working at our local Arby's, and there was a lady who worked there who was ultra religious, ultra religious. At that time in my youth and innocence, I never heard somebody swear as much as this lady did in anger. She could not hold back her anger ever. She was just always, constantly. And it's like, are you not getting any kind of perspective going to your church? Are you not speaking to your pastor every week? But it was a default mechanism for her, that she was righteous in her mind because she goes to church, and yet was anything but church-esque by no means. Erin, something to add?
Yeah, I think especially in that specific type of instance, it's talking about abuse and how do we navigate that. I mean, I'm a product of a pretty turbulent, nasty first marriage that resulted in me turning to drinking. I didn't decide to go a positive route or follow a religion, or I didn't find the paranormal or spiritualism. I found the bottom of a vodka bottle for a lot of years. Because I was so angry with the religious side of things, I didn't know that there was sort of like another end to it. So I kind of agree with Ken and the fact that, like, and George, anything that we can do when you're dealing with those kinds of situations that allows you to get through it in a positive way, because nobody's saying religion's bad. None of that's happening here. We all just have to figure out a way to sort of navigate it in a safe way. But at this point, religion, it's it's like a buzzword. I feel like it's becoming almost like a buzzword that's got a negative connotation to it, almost like deep, like, you know, you start talking about religion and people automatically get, you know, the tension builds, people start automatically getting defensive. Like, it's harder to find people to be able to have a normal conversation like this. Like, the three of us don't agree on everything that we're discussing, but that doesn't mean at the end of the day, we all sort of see things. Most of us believe in a higher power. Most of us have a background in faith or religion or whatever that looks like. But our perspectives on these different things are very, very different because of our life experience. So I think it's an interesting way to be able to talk about the things that people are bringing up in chat, because everybody in chat also has a different perspective on how religion is or what their life experience is. And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, we all still believe in something. It's just navigating it in a society we live in now where everything's a buzzword and everything's got it, you know, everything starts a fight and everybody's offended and everybody's so mad that I think it's hard to find a situation like this where we can openly discuss these things without people wanting to tear each other apart.
Right. Well, prayer can be, it's not just gimme, gimme, gimme. Prayer can be meditative as well. And I think prayer is something that's can be misused. I know that sounds really like, who am I? But, you know, it can be meditative to the point where it's a self-examination of yourself and what you're going through. And a lot of times in that meditative state, things reveal itself. You know?
Yeah, and I think you're also talking, you know, words, prayer is the same thing as manifesting, is the same thing as wishing, is the same thing as insert word here that puts out an energetic vibration to the universe of something specific that you're looking to do, have happen, whatever that looks like. It's just the verbiage is different.
Right. And, you know, you say that if they are going through these videos and debunking them right now, you've been branded a heretic for saying that, and they're coming for you.
That's fine. That's okay.
That's fine.
I've gotten very used to being on the receiving end of things like that. It's good. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, whatever. Bring it.
Don't be surprised if John Zaffis knocks on your door.
Yeah, right. That would be actually kind of cool. I'll give him a cup of coffee. Tell him I said hi.
He did.
And I still, you know, what's funny is I was John's coffee fairy. I still know how he takes it. So I could worm my way, I think, on just about anything with the coffee made the right way, just how John Zappis likes it.
Yeah, right.
Comment from Sarah Yusuf here, Ken.
Yeah, another statement from Sarah. Teaching empathy through those relationships enhances our experiences and senses. So, yeah, they're intrinsically tied, Sarah, which is why. And I was just saying that, you know, it was more a statement, and I agree with it. Doing a show the other day for our friend Sheena Metal, who has a number of them out in Los Angeles. And, you know, she was nice enough to have me on. And the thing that I said on that show, it just sort of came to me. It wasn't prepared. I have learned more about being a better person through my experiences in the paranormal than I had in any religious setting. And I'm talking about all the things that you strive for: compassion, understanding, patience. I learned more about those in dealing with my fellow man, in going into different situations where, you know, there's families and people who are afraid or just a little confused on things. And I learned more in dealing with them. And I think that I espouse, oddly enough, more of the church's teachings by my experience in this field. You know, I that's odd, but, you know, life is a great classroom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows where we end up.
I still haven't learned that lesson because I love communicating with spirit and I hate talking to people. It's not given me any advantage so far because people talk over you. It's just, you try to have a conversation and They just want to hear themselves talk, and it just gets frustrating. All right, here we go. Next one here, Ken.
Okay, from our good friend Michelle. We haven't heard from Michelle in a long time. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? So good to hear from you. If the paranormal was a religion, who is the deity or higher power one worships? I think that's
Zappis.
the missing element.
Yeah.
Would a better
Zappis.
question be, is it a new denomination? I would frame it like this. My answer to that is we're not talking about a deity. Higher power, I would say the higher power we're talking to are people on the other side who have transitioned, who are in a better place. We always call it a better place. And for whatever experiences, whatever's going on over there, that could certainly take the replacement of a higher power. Not necessarily a deity. Ghosts aren't gods. Demons aren't gods. Poltergeists aren't gods. But just the very idea that those who have moved on at times are sharing their experience and wisdom with us, I think essentially, like I said, when people move away from religion and the idea that there's something bigger or greater than them, oftentimes something is brought in to fill that void. I would, and I know because I'm a jock, when an athlete retires from a sport, they miss the energy, the roar of the crowd, the adulation. What replaces that? Can be money, but a lot of them turn to television, just to keep that spotlight burning a little bit more. I mean, might not be the perfect metaphor, but you always need to replace something with something if it was positive at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, Ken, in the middle of that response, you committed heresy yourself when you said spirits are not gods, plural. Should be just God, Ken. Unless we're going back to ancient
More
Middle
than one
East.
religion, man. They have
Buddhist.
ghosts in the Philippines too, brother.
I'm telling you. All right, one final question here, and then we'll go back to what we're talking about.
This is something Aaron alluded to before, and I think what Kathy is saying is there a reason you can't be both? This is a little dated because it happened earlier, but we're talking about religious and spiritual. And I think, Aaron, if you just want
and paranormal,
I know you addressed that.
Yeah, I think it was just because I was seeing in some of the chats that people were, I think it was more when we were discussing, there seems to be a dividing line between being religious and being in the paranormal. And can you be both of those things? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. I think, for a lot of us who aren't religious per se, I don't believe there is, I believe in a higher power. I tend to fall under the universe thing, like source, collective consciousness. That's kind of where my head lives. But other people believe in God. Some people are very religious. I don't think that matters or affects your affects your ability to be in the paranormal. Like, you don't have to make a choice between the two. I think it's always going into any situation just with an open mind, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think in any situation, you have to check your preconceived notions of your religion or your life experience. In some cases, like, you have to be just open to an experience. And I think that's really the only kind of thing that's necessary or important.
Aren't we completely the opposite in this field, or at least a portion of the paranormal, where people go in as skeptics until you're not?
Sure.
Those people who never had a paranormal experience in their life until they do, and it changes your perspective. You cannot say the same thing in organized religion. You really can. You can, again, substantiate an event in your mind of happening because of divine influence, but you have no actual facts or experiences to it. So, again, I wonder if that's the difference between them, is that there's always a new convert in the paranormal the minute that they have that paranormal experience. It's something that you don't forget. It's something that can never be taken away from you. And I think that's unusual. It's really rare, really rare. And Shelley Cooper, Aaron, I had to sober up years ago because I carried a lot of baggage with abuse from childhood, and also went to the bottle. It's beautiful to be on the other side. Indeed, it is, Shelley.
Yeah.
Very much so.
God bless, Shelley.
Good on you, Shelley.
Yeah.
Hang in
Not
there.
an easy battle.
Hang in there.
One more question from Michelle Harold, Ken.
We do. I was thinking, if the paranormal is a religion, then there are so many denominations that no one will ever agree on anything. Again, what is a demon? What is a poltergeist? Are psychics legit?
Yep.
Yeah,
They don't agree on anything anyways. That's not a new concept either, I think,
Well, that's something we talked about earlier. One person says it's a lovely message from your grandmother, and somebody else will come along. Be careful, it could be a demon. You know, and it depends on your pre-existing beliefs, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally
because if you're into the demon thing, that's not your
That's what you'll
angle,
find.
but that's your predisposition.
Correct.
You know, and I mean, there was nobody, and I say this with the utmost respect, there was nobody more so than the Warrens. Now, but I quantify that by saying maybe they had a shit ton of cases where they just said there's nothing demonic here, but we never hear about those. You know, we only hear about the more salacious, the more sensational cases. So, you know, not to speak out of turn on that, but some people just that's their thing, you know, and they see it everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And one more thought, because then I want to show you some pie charts. Where again you're blending the paranormal with religion, and some people don't. I believe they don't even know it. It's either subconscious or they're following someone else who says the same thing. But, and I'm going to read, I have to read this here because, you know, because I'm spiritual, not religious. The Bible record states demons are very real. They exist in the Bible. Satan, Lucifer, or the devil is called the prince of demons in the scriptures. Ephesians 2:2, Matthew 9:34. When a person loses control of his mind, as in a temper tantrum, or scared out of his mind, or consorts with the occult, scripture says they may open themselves up to demonic influence and possible possession. Okay, we use those theories now all the time. All the time. We attribute a temper tantrum or something crazy to you got the devil in you. We still do that. We are borrowing that, and that has lived on. This is my whole thing as the paranormal replacing religion, because they're espousing the same things. It also says demons can create a strange sickness, Matthew 17:15, such as epilepsy, paralysis, deafness, dumbness, or madness, for which there is no apparent physical cause. This is scripture, and every one of those things I just read are maintained to this day as theories for people's afflictions. You know,
in
how
the
many
church.
times we heard there's a sickness and my daughter got sick and we took her to all these doctors and nobody could diagnose her. What's wrong with her? It's the work of the devil. And here we go. We're gonna go down that path now. So I just wanted to get that in real quick as an example of how maybe consciously or subconsciously we still haven't let go of that. Jeffrey Turner says, from an ex-pastor and theologian, the Bible actually does not teach this. Well, then whatever book, Jeffrey, I am quoting from, if it's not the Bible, perhaps it's another writing, and you can let us know, you know, because we're an open book here.
Could be the Medical Journal of the United States too, just as much. Isn't it funny though? Yeah, we go one of them whether he's crazy or he's possessed. He's we make medical diagnoses and spiritual diagnoses, and with no education, no experience behind it. It's just
No, absolutely none.
it's a default mechanism that we are all guilty of in one way, shape, or form.
Um,
Uh,
I wanted to put a couple of these up here, maybe to spur some conversation or maybe to illustrate a point. First one is non-religious people. If we look on the left, non-religious, of course, they have a low belief in religion, low belief in witchcraft, low belief in precognition, in psi, and spiritualism. Extrinsics, those who are more independent thinkers, high belief in extraordinary life forms, science, superstition, high belief in astrology. Those who are indiscriminate, they're on the fence one way or the other. They also have a high belief religion, witchcraft, precognition, psi, spiritualism. Intrinsics, those people who are more deeply religious, have low beliefs in astrology, superstition, science, life forms. So on the pie chart of life there just seems to be a heck of a lot more people that are gravitating toward the paranormal. In terms of beliefs, I mean, global paranormal belief, we're in the 80s, and it's pretty close between male and female. And then as they break it down, you get an idea here without reading everything, all the traditional religious beliefs, spiritualism, and so forth, all fairly high numbers. And then how important would you say religion is in your own life? And if you look from 1992 to 2022, I think the graph kind of speaks for itself. Okay. And we're looking at those who say very fairly or not very important. So
that's a great span over 30 years, and it's only gone down, what, 10%?
well, right now, a decade ago, 10% of Americans at most were atheists. 10%. Now, 35% of millennials claim they have no place for religion in their lives. And that's even in the Bible belts of the country. So that's as actually a 350% increase in non-belief over 10 years.
Yeah, with justifiable reason, though. I mean, it's a societal event because of the way that our economy is built right now. Most of the family members from the 80s and 90s, both family members, both parents had to work, and by the time we got to the weekend, most of the time it was to take care of errands and necessities at home. And so these kids were not inducted or indoctrinated into church at that point in time. So sure, if it was so much easier rather than have to get dressed on a Sunday morning and get the kids ready when they really want to sleep in from a Saturday night and get them all into the car and drive them down to the church and be in the church for however many hours that the sermon is expected for that day. Let's put the kids in front of the TV. Let's just put in front of the TV. Then we can go to the pool, or I can go golf. Dad can go golfing, or mom can, have a pottery class with her friends. Boys, that's sexist, isn't it? Mom could go golfing, for crying out loud. Whatever the
Yeah.
situation is, but the kids were not guided into religion. So it makes perfect sense that number has grown
It's not
exponentially.
like they died on a cross for anyone's sins or anything.
No, of course not.
Right.
But they, yeah, all of it is, again, it's economics, it's societal, it all goes hand in hand. The exposure is not to the degree what it used to be. That's why we joke about the fact that in 1970s, how come from that point forth we never experienced a ghost in a members only jacket? It just
Right.
wasn't something that it wasn't instilled in them that, I'm going to be going to hell because number one, I'm wearing a members only jacket. Number two, I did other shady things and I'd just rather stay in purgatory and just roam around my house. It doesn't happen in that way anymore.
Well, I mean, like I say, the biggest exodus from religion would probably be atheism. Just no belief either way. the belief there is everything is nothing and there never was anything. And I don't know if people came up that way or slipped into that or, made their own choices on that. I'm sure it's a mishmash of all those things. But like I said before, a lot of it has to do with science, and understanding how things actually work. And science, which goes to my question, how many scientists do you believe in God? Because their vocation has probably done more to move people away from religion, as we start to discover more things, the origin of man, whether it's Darwinism or, the ancient alien theory where we're seated here or, but people tend to move away from that. But interestingly enough, 83% of people believe in the paranormal, but whatever that chart was, 46% say religion's important in their life in the current times. So this was what triggered me to talk about this tonight. It's like, wait a minute, religion's very important to you. That's down here, but ghosts and if you believe you've had a paranormal experience is way up there. So again, it's kind of like a void somehow is being filled in a lot of people. Good, bad, or indifferent. I make no judgment on that. I'm just it's kind of the way I see it. It is right now. And to talk about, well, why? Why did this happen? How did this happen? How did we evolve? How did we get to this point? So
yeah.
No, I still think again that there's such a difference between the two. As Aaron was saying, there is no leader, there is no figurehead within the paranormal. I think it is a current trend of interest, obviously, because you see it on every platform that it is out there on social media, and people want to have that experience. Unfortunately, I'd say the majority of them are looking to get scared. That's why, again, some of the younger ones that are out there, the influencers, resort right away to demons because it's a scary topic and it'll get views and likes. But whether or not they're looking to touch spirit and have that experience with spirit and not sell it, but instead experience it is what's still missing as far as that's concerned. But again, you got, you got religion selling it. You can go back to, the old running joke about Jehovah's Witnesses coming to your door. I mean, they sell it, they sell it, they sell it. And it's just part of what life is. And talking about science not having that aspect of religion, but you'll have people with master's degrees, people who are highly educated are still pushing the religious agenda because there's money to make in it. Look, Ken, if you want to look at it this way, guns are a religion, realistically, and the NRA is God because they will push it in one agenda or another, whether it is creating a scenario where you feel threatened in your neighborhood or in your car, carry a weapon. It's all about pushing an agenda. Unfortunately, we don't have that type of mechanism behind us here in the paranormal to push that agenda. Yes, the kids are doing it on social media, but we are still missing the mark as far as saying, this is where we want to go. Here's our goal, and this is what we hope to achieve doing this in the field. That's not arrived yet. That's still very, very diversified.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're shifting away from that even more because, again, I'll go back to this whole celebrity thing where it's, these events, which are great, are selling out all over the place. And, you're doing investigations. But number one, it's impossible to do an investigation with 30 people. You just can't do it. But then two, they're not showing up to learn about the things George just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's, who can I, and I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm not saying that this is bad at all because it's just different than how I operate, I guess. But it's a lot of people in the field, there's just a lot of people that aren't wanting to learn. It's not about learning anymore. It's about who can I post that I met on Facebook? Who can I,
Right.
That's the thing that scares me, that we're getting away from the learning aspect of it and the historical aspect of it. And what can we learn from the other side to inform us more here on this plane of action on 3D?
Mm-hmm.
That's starting to slip away more and more, because we are focusing on the demons and how many clicks can you get on your YouTube video. I mean, y'all know what I do for a living, the amount of emails I get about, oh, I just want to grow my channel. I just want to grow my channel. I just want to grow my channel. It's like, to what end? Because you want to learn about the place that you're visiting. You want to take that historical information and run with it and try and see what you can learn about the place, or are you just going around screaming demons in the night so you can get your
it's
clicks and likes?
Performative art.
Right.
And yet,
Correct.
look at the amount of views. Look, they're getting shitload of views.
And it's scary.
Ken and I have been doing this for quite some time. I've been doing it for 15 years. Talking to so many influential people in this field, and it doesn't move the needle at all. At all. I mean, we appreciate our audience, right, Ken? We appreciate our audience. They're an intelligent audience.
So much so, I want to put Jeff to. Jeff is part of the Dead Air family, actually, on Soul School. Love you all. No offense, May Jeff. Not a problem. We're sometimes you have, I wouldn't say a difficult conversation, but you have conversations. This is what we lack. Bad translation interpretation is to blame for most of the persecution of the paranormal. Historic Christianity is actually a mystical gold mine, and well said, Jeff.
By the way, I'm highly offended, Jeff. I just want to let you know.
Everybody loves Jeff.
I guess I'll close it up. What I want to say by the moral, we're talking about morality, the moral difference, and this is a hard and sad fact, but the moral difference is often determined by who makes the money.
Yep.
That's where, the morality in all of this comes into play. So
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And there's no escaping it. Wow. We have run out of time already, guys. I mean, I can't believe how quickly that we got through these 2 hours, but there's a lot to talk about, and it's an emotional topic. It's something that we think about, address. Ken and I have conversations off air on the phone, and reality wise, it's it's to each person's beliefs, guidance, direction that they want to go with. Nobody on this show is questioning where you stand as far as that, but we want to give different perspectives for us as well, and hope that you learn something as we go along this path. Ken?
Yeah, I thank everybody for their input tonight and their engagement in what we were talking about. I know something a little bit different. We try to relate whatever our topic is back to the paranormal, because that's why we're here. But we like to break away from talking about ghosts and ET and Loch Ness Monster every once in a while, because I like to think there's more to us, and I know there's more to you, the viewers of this channel. I know there's more to you, that we're not just, obsessed about this. So it's nice to have this kind of dialogue. And as George said, to get your input on this was absolute gold to us tonight. We may not know every little thing about, hey, we don't know everything we're talking about, but we just share our feelings with you, and we love that feedback. So thank you for your indulgence tonight. And next week, we'll resume our usual programming.
Yep. Don't forget to hit that subscribe once again, the thumbs up, and the reminder bell. On behalf of our very special guest, Aaron Bush, Ken DeCosta, and myself, you've been watching Dead Air live on a Sunday night. We'll see you back next week, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching.